Hi guys, this is Neil from Advanced Property Strategies, and in this episode of Your Next Property Deal podcast, we're going to be interviewing Liz Rutten from OnQ Lending. I'm really excited to be presenting her because she'll be talking about, how do you fund one of these rooming accommodation properties? How do you fund one of these mini boarding houses? And, do the big banks support them? Should you be going to your big four bank and being able to finance one of these or not? Or what are the challenges and things you overcome? Maybe you want to be able to buy one of these properties as your first investment property, or diversify your portfolio, or maybe you can offset your negatively geared property. So listen up on this next episode of Your Next Property Deal regarding mini boarding houses with Liz Rutten. Catch you soon. Hi guys, this is Neil from Advanced Property Strategies, and welcome to our latest episode on Your Next Property Deal. And the series is on rooming accommodation, mini boarding houses, and 1B construction. So today we've got Liz Rutten from OnQ Lending. Hi Liz, how are you going?
Hi, thank you for having me today as well.
Yeah, no, really excited. And after the last few conversations I've had with you, and I know you've been talking to a few of my clients, it's very refreshing because you actually know what this business is about and you understand the industry, the ins and outs and the challenges we're having and what we're trying to achieve to finance these rooming accommodation buildings. I know you don't just specialise in Southeast Queensland, you do Australia-wide, which is even more exciting because it means you have a broader picture than just my narrow focus of Brisbane City Council, let's say. But yeah, as a finance specialist, how do you add value to people in this space?
As in financing wise, going to a major bank versus me as a broker, is that what you're asking me?
Absolutely.
Or finance specialist,
as a finance specialist, but also being a specialist in this particular area.
Yeah, I just have to be a little bit careful with regards to, financial advice. So that's something that I can't and won't focus on. The other part is I can talk about lending in this regard.
Yes.
So going to a major bank, as most clients that start on this investment journey do, they usually come back quite disappointed, actually always come back disappointed for the sheer fact that lenders don't have rooming houses in their policy. Major lenders. And if they do take it on, as I got through this morning, they'll do it as a standard residential property. Now, what that translates to is a standard residential valuation, i.e. lower than what, the
building
contract price. Yep. And the other one is they won't take their room by room rental income into account, proposed or existing. And they're the major challenges. So yes, it is a specialist lender, or I should say lenders that work on these style of deals.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are the typical, why do people generally buy these types of deals? I know just from your experience that you dealt, like I said, from our chats in Western Australia, they can have 8 rooms, in Southeast Queensland, 5 rooms, 4 rooms, depending. But why, what is the rationale and what are the types of people that buy these kind of investment properties?
It's an interesting question because I get all sorts of people through, anywhere from people that decided not to buy their first home and invest in this style of property, to people that have got a mixture of existing, quite often negative gear property and portfolio, to people that have commercial property in portfolio and just want to diversify a bit. So there is a mixture there of everything. What I have noticed is people that are simply seeking cash flow positive properties. The old negative gearing thought process is almost outdated, and this is an ideal way of people having to consider or can consider these style of properties for income stream purposes.
No, that's great. Like even what you said before with first home buyers, like buying this first, I think that's very, very lucrative and creative. I know with my first property, I did actually move in with the tenant. I know it was crazy. It was a boyfriend girlfriend scenario where the boyfriend was 65, she was 21. This was a crazy scenario. Yeah. Imagine me as a 21-year-old whippersnapper entrepreneur moving in with them. But you laugh. And it is funny looking back on it. What was I thinking? Well, I just wanted a passive income, positive cash flow. So, and I acknowledge everything you say there about people who've got negative geared property. They want to balance it out, and rather than working harder at their job to offset that, why do that when you can get a property to do that for you, where the tenants are doing that? So, tell us, because your exposure is wider nationally than mine, with the different types of properties. Like, tell us, in Western Australia, what are they doing there, which is pretty cool?
So council does allow 6x6s, 6 unrelated parties, to have a house under, the approvals without too many hurdles, I should say. They are toying around, the group that I work with, 8x8s at the moment. So still a work in process, still being refined, but definitely a idea that is being played around with. Simply, there's just so much need for these style of properties, and there's a lot of demand for it as well from an investor point of view.
Yeah, for sure. And I suppose that's where you come in to provide a finance solution, because I know, like you said, front up, and I've got no issues talking about it openly, is that the big banks, the big fours or the general, Suncorps and St. George's, they just don't understand it. And if they don't understand it, they just kibosh it. And if they do understand it, it becomes a different ball game, where it might be a lower LVR, more cash in, expensive valuations and things like that. But so why do you think, so with the funders that you have worked with, without, I suppose, revealing all the IP, is, what solutions do you provide that makes it easier for the investor?
So depending on the investor's personal circumstances, financial and personal circumstances, I then have a look at with which lender it may work best. And that can probably be a major lender as well. There's only one that is okay in this space as well, low LVR, but they're okay depending on, what the deal looks like, to a lender that does this in the residential space, but it's almost a bit of a hybrid, for the sheer fact that the valuation is a commercial valuation. So they recognize the fact that this is a income producing property. They will take the room by room rental income into account, and they will recognize the fact that the layout does not compare with your 4x2s next door, and value it accordingly. So that lender will go to 90% lend. They also do construction as well. But the client does have to fit their ticker box style of application.
Yeah. And I think, look, if they can tick that box and go 90% LVR and well as construction finance, because that's where a lot of the issues that you find the clients have, is it the construction finance? That's where they mainly get stuck.
Yes, in the past, traditionally, this lender probably started early next year with offering this product. Traditionally, these sort of style of investments used to be funded in the private lending market. Now, you are looking at low LVRs, high interest rates, high entry and exit costs. And then you'd hope, once a project was finished, who will take me on? Because sometimes a shift in lending policy may have taken place. And I have had that initially when I made the inquiries early last year, who's even got an appetite for it. There was a non-major bank that said yes, not that we did a deal, but it was just me making inquiries. Going back a small year later, they went, no, not interested. So that's a little bit awkward if you've decided to construct in the private space. And that's something that can't, and I won't let happen to clients. You just can't do that. So you have to offer the right solution.
So I think, guys, who are listening here, I think where Liz adds value, because for those of you who are beginners and looking at getting into this area, is you might sign a contract, you get excited about the income, you go to your ANZ, Westpac, Commonwealth Bank, NAB, whatever, and they say, no, it doesn't fit our box because it's got, 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms. We won't lend it to you. And you get all disappointed and say, well, I can't do this and I'm stuck. We'll have a bit of a cry and you go, well, what are other alternative solutions? Then what Liz was talking about then is, Jen, you'll go to the other second or third tiers who might offer you construction finance at 10, maybe 12%, including application fees. And then what Liz was talking about then, to try to translate to layman's terms, because we can kind of get stuck in jargon, is at the end of it, you hopefully, how do you get those expensive high interest rate lenders out to be able to go back to the traditional lending interest rates of 5.5%, 6% at this point in time. So that's what Liz is talking about. And if you can do that at 90%, which means that you're only putting in 10% deposit plus a reasonable interest rate, it might be the sevens initially, and then going back to a roughly a 6% mark, depending on the rate at the time, it makes it a lot more palatable. Is that right, Liz? Anything you want to comment about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Just keep in mind when you do a 90% lend to run the FISO. So run the numbers with what the proposed income stream will be of the property versus how the lending's going to look. The less hurt money, the less potentially attractive the deal may be from a number point of view. But at the same time, also take a long-term approach. Just don't look at the rates and get too hung up about the fact that the rate is what it is currently. And to be honest, I actually don't find them that high. They're pretty normal,
Yes.
They were too low in the past anyway. So don't get too hung up about the fact that, the rate is what it is, because I'd like to see clients look at this as a long-term proposal. This is not a 2-year, 3-year, scenario.
Yeah. No, that's good. And so how many, from your experience, obviously you've worked with a handful of clients and investors. I know it's only been probably 1.5 years, if not 2 years, that you've been playing around with this space. So your typical client, are they doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Have you played with those in terms of clients there, or are you just getting a handful of maybe 1 or 2 clients doing 1 or 2 construction loans at this point in time to start with as they're building the portfolio?
Yeah, building the portfolio is definitely one. It also depends on the groups that I work with, who they target as clients. I do get a bit of a mixture through. I've had clients through that do have a larger portfolio of these sort of style of properties, which brings its own challenges. Again, the lender that I may initially think of may not be suitable, and that's then a discussion to be had with the client. So, or just as I mentioned earlier, the very first one, instead of their first home for 1.5 million, they decided to acquire one of these properties.
Yeah, which I think is very, very lucrative, and just rent vest for a while and maybe live at home with mum and dad while you're building up the portfolio. And I think it's very, very clever. Someone's been in their ear to build that passive income in the background there, which is very, very smart and lucrative. So any other pitfalls, like at the beginning, people buying their first or second house and land package in this instance from a builder? What are some of the most common mistakes that you've seen buyers make as well as financiers make that you've had to kind of clean up their messes?
Buyers, it is pretty much, I'd like to recommend clients look at a group that has the professionalism and does offer as corny as it sounds nowadays, an all approach, though, the property management, etc. Not just a builder that offers this style of property that may not even be compliant, and where that comes out is potentially towards the end, potentially with a valuation. All this time and effort and money has been spent by the client on promises that just can't come to fruition. So any tip, please use a organization that will look after you, exactly, holistically.
Yeah. And from a financier point of view, I'm sure you've seen a few dungers out there where banks have made mistakes or they made promises they can't keep. What are some of the more interesting messes that you've had to clean up and been able to kick some goals and kick some butt?
Yeah, look, I personally don't put a application through to a lender that I don't think it's going to work or it doesn't fit their policy. Sometimes unexpected circumstances do pop up whilst an application is going, and that could be that a client hasn't sold property yet, or claimed they had funds to complete but didn't quite have. Messes cleaned up. No, we don't let it get to that stage because clients get vetted pretty much before the whole application starts. Look, sometimes clients think that their broker, banker can do a better deal because the interest rate, again, we go back to that. And then, the valuation comes back $400,000 short, $150,000 short. And then they think it's not the right sort of deal for them. But the fact is, it wasn't the right finance solution. That's what it is.
Yeah. And it's hard for me to explain this to people at the beginning too, because they do have their loyalties. I understand that, but they haven't seen the war stories, or they haven't had the problems that you and I have been exposed to. So, that's why when you and I spoke to each other at the beginning, we can be very direct and without taking anything personally, because you know what the obstacles are going to be, because you've been through it many, many, many times. At the moment, I'm about to borrow X millions of dollars for a land development, right? And I know the valuation is going to cost me $8,000, but I know that valuer, because I've worked with him before, it's going to give me, the LVRs that I need based on the land subdivision that I'm doing. So it's having that experience. And some people, like you said in your emails, you like to have that referral come through. At least that they've done that qualification for you, rather than you coming with someone off the street who's going to waste your time, ask 1,000 questions, and not do any business in the end, right? So I appreciate that.
And that is correct. Yeah.
So, no, cool. So, look, we're going to start to wrap that up. But Liz, any other suggestions for people who are looking in this area, in this space, to be an investor? Any tips to kind of wrap this up?
Yeah, you may potentially have a chat to your accountant about getting market ready. And market ready is probably two parts. One is cash out, if you do have equity in your property, or funds to complete sitting in an account, savings account, whatever it may be. The other one is looking at, as I said, a discussion with your accountant whereby a trust structure is to be set up to acquire one of these deals. That is a big thing. You may not wish to purchase it in your personal name for the sheer fact you have got 6 people living there, and the potential of something happening and you may be made liable is not a good look if you have it in your personal name. That is one big tip I can give clients. So there's a bit of asset protection, there's a bit of accounting, and there's definitely some lending advantages as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I hear what you're saying there. You've basically told them I haven't told them, but as suggestions, because you can't give financial advice.
Yeah.
Because the other thing that I can say, not as a financial planner, is if you're going to get, let's say, 100 grand in revenue and you pay this thing off, that's going to go on potentially your personal income as well. Yeah, so I appreciate the way you worded it. It's very, very clever to do it that way. So thanks, Liz. Well, look, thanks for your time there, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. It was short and sharp and to the point. And Liz's details will be on the bottom of this podcast information. If you've got any questions, send it through. Feel free to join us on our Your Next Property Deal Facebook group. And till next time, thanks, Liz.
Thank you. Take care.
Hi guys, Young Nguyen from Advanced Property Strategies on the Your Next Property Deal podcast. I hope you enjoyed this last episode where we spoke to Liz Rutten, and she covered the things of what kind of investors participate in these rooming accommodation properties. Also, what kind of numbers of tenants can you put into these properties, and what challenges that we've covered in terms of banks. Do they lend on them? What kind of banks should you be talking to? Are valuations important? And what kind of LVRs can you get up to? So appreciate that. And thanks for your time. Look forward to catching up with you next time. If you want to catch up with us on Facebook, we're on Your Next Property Deal Facebook group there. You also check me out on advancedpropertystrategies.com. Check out my website, and we'll catch you next time. See you later.